And visit a radio talk in which Conor Cruise O'Brien recalled the shock in 1927, when he was 10, of his father's sudden death that Christmas.
My father had been an agnostic. We lived in Dublin. Agnosticism ran in the family a bit. My mother's eldest sister and her son Owen were agnostics too. All the rest were Catholics, traditional, tridentine. My mother had tried being an agnostic out of loyalty to my father. When he died, she gave up and went back to being a Catholic. She also started to pray hard, very hard, even for an Irish Roman Catholic. She started praying on Christmas night, 1927. The reason why she started praying on that particular night was that my father died that morning, suddenly, of a heart attack, while bending a bow for me, my present from him. You can forget about the bow. The important word, as any Roman Catholic reader sees instantly, is suddenly. There was no time to send for the priest. If there had been, my mother would most certainly have asked my father to send for him, and I believe he would have sent for him, mainly because he knew it would be a comfort to my mother, and therefore to me. For the same sort of reason, James Joyce, another Dublin Catholic agnostic, but of much stricter obedience than my father, felt able to tell his little sister that their mother was in heaven. Being a live agnostic was not then, and is not now, taken very seriously in Ireland. Not very long ago, a prominent Belfast Catholic revealed to his parish priest that he, the PBC, had become an agnostic. The man of God kept his cool. "You're not an agnostic, Paddy. You're just a fat slob who's too lazy to go to Mass." But to be an agnostic who had died without the priest was in 1927, and for years afterwards, a much more serious matter. Everybody we knew well was kind to my mother about this. They explained to my mother that my father would certainly go to heaven because he had lived a good life. These reassurances were in themselves alarming. What my mother was worried about was not whether my father would go to heaven. She took that for granted. But when he would get there. The great question, in fact, was Purgatory, a thriving institution at the time. My mother did not believe, as a less educated widow in her position might have believed and would have been told, that her husband was undergoing a course of physical torture somewhere under the earth. She believed that he might be separated from God. It was not the separation from God that worried her, it was the separation from her. By her bedside I saw for the first time in early January 1928 a manual of devotion, In Heaven We Know Our Own, by Father Blott, S.J. I didn't need to read the book. The title was enough. You see, to know your own in heaven, your own have to get there. And I knew that the date of my father's arrival at that destination was problematical. The reason for that was myself, because my father, besides being an agnostic and dying without the priest, had done something much worse. He had sent me to a Protestant school because he thought Protestant schools were better than Catholic ones, which they were. My mother was told that if she prayed, she could shorten my father's term in purgatory, so she prayed like mad. But she was also told that every term she kept me on at a Protestant school lengthened my father's term of suffering. She wouldn't take me away from that school because it had been my father's wish that I should go there, and that was that. Every day of her life was shortening, lengthening, praying, and holding firm with heroic fortitude.